Would you like to sponsor the Azan? If so, give us a call on 01582 481 810 or email us on info@inspirefm.org.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 6 o'clock.
Good evening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of Friday Night Live with me, Abdul Akbar, beaming out to the good people of Luton and surrounding areas tonight, and also to the good people of Sheffield, Nottingham, Derby, Peterborough, and the Midlands through our partner stations, including Link FM and Salam Radio. Welcome to all of you this evening. Of course, we're beaming out on the radio airwaves as well, but we're also going out via our YouTube channel on Inspire FM Luton Live. So if you want to tune in and watch me and the guests on tonight's program and topics, you can do that by going onto YouTube, typing in Inspire FM Luton and clicking on the live tab, or you can go on the Inspire FM Luton Facebook page, and we are streaming live there as well. Throughout tonight's program, we'll be taking your calls as well on 01582 481 822. Guess what? We're going to have a number of topics with you for the next couple of hours, and we'll be talking about, of course, we've got a brand new president in the United States. No surprises, really, because Kamala Harris, as predicted, ran a rubbish campaign, and the American people clearly saw through her inability to lead. She literally came out of nowhere and was put on the forefront of the presidential agenda. The American people weren't buying it. But what does that mean for the rest of the world, especially the situation in Palestine and all the atrocities and then some that Israel is committing against the Palestinian people, and now, as we know, against the Lebanese people as well? We'll be talking about that in half an hour's time, so do not go away. In fact, joining me for that topic, I've got a couple of really important guests. I've got Raed Jarrar, who's an Arab American political advocate based in Washington, D.C., they'll be joining me live. And also Syed Mohsin Abbas, no stranger to this program. He's going to be joining me on his political analysis on what a Trump presidency means for the rest of us outside of the US. We've seen some of the appointments made over the last couple of days that have been announced. Of course, we know that Elon Musk and this horrible guy called Vivek Ramaswamy, he's going to be running, and they're going to be running a department for efficiency, effectively, for the government, or Department of Governmental Efficiency, it's called. That is going to be interesting as well. They're going to try to reduce the size of the government and the civil servants. All that and more in roughly half an hour's time, so stay tuned for that on tonight's program. But right now, I'm going to go into another health-related topic, because this is also in our current affairs today, which is all on the back of, and of course, this has been going on for years, but you probably have heard that there's been a lot of famous personalities that are dying of what's known as by men as prostate cancer. Prostate cancer isn't anything new, but it has been made popular recently by a number of famous personalities that have come forward to talk about it and tell us that they are suffering from prostate cancer. Just only recently, another person, Steve McQueen, came out and talked about it. And also, we know famous Olympic athlete as well was diagnosed by prostate cancer and came public a couple of weeks ago. A lot of people who are very healthy, otherwise quite healthy, if Olympians are getting prostate cancer, what hope do people like me have that are relatively not as healthy as an Olympian, but nonetheless do their walking and everything else? To answer that question and more, I'm delighted to welcome to the program right now someone who is no stranger to Friday Night Live, but is probably a stranger to this new format. And that's Dr. Tahir Mahmood, a local GP here in Luton. and ambassador for men's health. Dr. Mahmood has been instrumental in raising awareness about prostate cancer in our community and beyond, and he's on the show right now. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saab, how are you?
Walaikum salam. How are you? Nice to see you.
Lovely to see you as well, Dr. Saab, and thank you for giving us around 20 minutes of your time today to take our viewers and our listeners through this very awkward, I would say, topic sometimes for people of prostate cancer in men. So let me ask you this, Dr. Mahmood. I mean, your reactions, first of all, before we go into all the nuts and bolts of the illness and the symptoms and what to look out for, etc., and what the testing looks like for it. Your reactions to more awareness being raised about prostate cancer, maybe some statistics you can share with us.
Yes, definitely. Recently, I can say that we had started a campaign locally in this area. Luton, Bedfordshire, I don't know if your guests are aware of this geographical contents of this area, which has, because we have a low uptake of the prostate cancers, and men are particularly notorious not to talk about these things. And we raised awareness, and now the more and more people are coming forward to get the test done, and more diagnoses being made through our hands. So I'm pretty sure that similar things are happening across the UK as well. So, but I'm encouraging more people globally to arrange these blood tests wherever they are, and these tests are available. I don't have any particular figures at the moment, but more than 52,000 men are diagnosed with prostate cancers every year in the UK, and about 45 minutes, every 45 minutes in the UK, someone dies with prostate cancer. So that means about 12,000 patients, 12,000 men are dying with prostate cancer. These sort of statistics are quite overwhelmingly can create anxiety among people, but more we talk about this, less the anxiety will be, and more people will be able to get the treatment if we catch the cancer at early stage.
Okay, thank you for that. Very, very disturbing statistics there. We're trying to get your sound quality a little bit better as well, Dr. Saab, because it's a little bit muffled. It's coming out a little bit muffled from this end, and I want to get it as clear as possible. I can see you're trying to grab some assistance. Okay, wonderful. Go for that. Go for that. And while Dr. Mahmood is sorting that out, the next question I want to ask him, and we heard like 5,000 male deaths, and I think you know, the number of deaths we're seeing amongst men, listeners may not know this, is actually, I think it surpasses the number of deaths proportionally that women get with breast cancer, which is quite a significant number as well. I was reading on one of the news websites recently, and which is quite significant. Let's try Dr. Mahmood again. So, Dr. Mahmood, let's hopefully we get better sound from you.
Can you hear me properly?
Oh, look at that. That is much better. Thank you so much for.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, appreciate that. So, Dr. Mahmood, could you tell us about some of the early warning signs of prostate cancer and why men should be proactive in getting screened and what that screening looks like, especially on the NHS? Lots of questions there, but maybe let's start off with the early warning signs of prostate cancer. Do we see this in men who are in their 20s, 30s, in older men? How does it work usually? Okay,
the earliest warning sign is being a man.
Oh, just being born with male.
It does occur into male transgenders. Okay, the typical age is about after the age of 50, when our temples start becoming gray, and we start feeling something going on in the loo, like going to the toilet often, staying long time there, or going to coming back again, maybe wetting clothes sometime. These are the normal symptoms. That means prostate is getting bigger. That doesn't mean it's a cancer. However, sometimes if someone noticed the blood in the urine, it could be is an alarming sign, and they needs to be checked straight away.
How much blood, Dr. Saab?
Any blood. If they see naked eye blood, that is significant sign. That's alarming sign.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it may or may not be, because prostate cancer is always alarming. There's
Yeah.
something going on. It could be stone in the kidney pass through, could be infection, but we always take it very, very seriously.
So if you're going for a pee and you see visible redness, red blood in your urine is pink, or you see clots of blood.
Yeah, whatever. If the change in color of the urine like reddish, do not worry how much is it. There is a blood there, so you must see the doctor. Surprisingly, many people we caught with advanced stage of cancer, they had no symptoms. I've seen so many people coming to me with a new onset of back pain. When we do scan, we find out, oh, there was some cancer which has spread it from the prostate. Some people, they do have warning sign like erectile dysfunction. They do not, they perform very well, and there's a problem that the being male, they have a problem down below. Okay, they can't sustain erection. These are the signs, but they mitigate. But we need to make sure that person hasn't got anything to do with the prostate cancer.
So it could be blood in urine, it could be impotence, it could be lots of things around that
Yeah,
area.
it could be nothing. It could be nothing.
It could be nothing. Yeah.
It could be just simple new backache. Maybe just weight loss. Person is losing weight.
It makes sense. Makes sense.
That's why we ask people to come forward if they have any symptoms, or at least at the age of 50, they should ask for the blood test, screening test to prostate cancer.
Is that?
Every year they should repeat it.
Thank you for that, Dr. So. And is that when the NHS allows for a screening test to happen if you're over the age of 50? Is that the threshold?
It is a kind of threshold at the 50 when we think that is appropriate to do it. However, now people in 40s can get the cancer as well, especially people who have got history of prostate cancer in the family, like someone's dad had it, uncle had it, someone else had it. So we encourage them to get the blood test done early, like in 45 years of age, or if they haven't symptoms, and then they can be screened earlier.
I mean, it's interesting, Dr. Dye, that you say that, because we know Sir Chris Hoy, who was 48. He's less than 50, and this is what I was saying in my intro. Somebody so healthy, multiple award-winning Olympian athlete, which none of us are these days, especially in the Asian community. If he's getting prostate cancer, it gets me really worried.
That's why I say to people, there are two biggest risk factors for the prostate cancer. One being male, then above the age of 45 and 50. That's it. So every year, if you get away this year, you should go for the next year. I tell people to put a reminder on your birthdays for the PSA test, which is prostate specific antigen. We do the blood test for that. So I ask everyone to just put a reminder and ask your doctor to do that.
Thank you for that. And can you tell us a bit more about the screening? So you mentioned PSA test, which is so what happens is it an invasive test, this test for prostate cancer screening? Do people need to expose themselves in some way, or is it as simple as going and getting a blood test?
It's a simple blood test, like we do blood pressure, diabetes checked, or kidneys function or liver function test. You don't need to fast for that. You just ask your doctor. Most of the doctors, they just tick the box of PSA as well. When they see someone's 50 years of age or above, they do it. But sometime under pressure, they can't remember it. So you can ask the doctor, I want to include my PSA in it. But it has to be done once a year.
Okay.
Unless there's a problem. So this is a basic test. This does not show that person definitely had cancer, but it will signpost us to do something more about it. For example, either repeat the test if it's abnormal, or send to the urologist if there's any problem. The best test to do is MRI of prostate gland, which is the gold standard test, which is available in the hospitals. Okay,
that's very clear.
That's the best test.
That's amazing. And this prostate specific antigen, could you give us a quick dummies guide? Because you said that even if the levels, I guess, are elevated, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have prostate cancer, but there's always a correlation between elevated levels of PSA and cancer, right? So it just is like
if someone's blood levels are marginally raised, for example, the PSA level should be at the age of, for example, if someone's age and the test is about 4, okay, with the normal limit. But if it's just above the 4, So we repeat the test, or maybe a couple of more digits above the normal range. We repeat the test after a few weeks. People need to have a to follow the instruction before the blood test done, because otherwise blood test will be misleading. For example, we encourage people not to do intercourse at least 1 to 2 days before the blood test, because it shows the activity of prostate gland.
I
Okay.
see.
And sometimes we do advise them not to do vigorous pelvic exercises before the blood test, because
Makes
everything
sense.
shakes the prostate gland. So if we think that needs to be repeated, we repeat it after a few weeks or a couple of months time. And if it's still raised, it shows the trend is above, then we do further investigations.
That's really clear, Dr. Saab. Thank you for that. And can we move on to sort of prognosis of the outlook if one is diagnosed with cancer? Because normally, sometimes with some cancers, early diagnosis actually means that you have a better outlook in terms of life, and sometimes it's age dependent as well. I mean, what's the situation with prostate cancer from your experience?
The reason we start campaign is to catch prostate cancer as early as possible. If we catch it as early as possible, then the treatment success rate is marvelous. Like many people, they survive 5 to 10 years. 99% people, they survive up to that. Okay, but
Wow.
if we catch it late, when it's gone into the bones, in the liver, in the lungs, in the has spread it to the lymph nodes, then maximum survival rate is 3 years.
Wow, and that's in a good case, right? That's in the best case, I guess, 3 years.
Yes, but in best case. So the good thing is more people are surviving with prostate cancer to tell their stories, because they've been caught early and they have a quality of treatment and quality of life, rest of the life. But people who are not aware of this and we catch them in later stages, there's very little things can be done about that, about the treatment.
Yeah,
So-
that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And Dr. Saab, in terms of the treatment itself, so imagine someone's being diagnosed with prostate cancer. They've had that MRI that you've mentioned. Obviously, they've had the PSA, which led to the MRI, the PSA blood test, which led to the MRI of the prostate. What normally are the options that the consultant would take at hospital? Do they remove the prostate? Do they give you chemotherapy? I mean, what are normally the routes and directions that
that's why I said there's a load of
treatments?
treatments available. For example, once we catch it, person might not need any treatment because lesion is so small. They just need surveillance every 6 months or 1 year. Sometimes they have to remove the cancer, the prostate gland, and if he had spread it to the other organs like bladder and the kidneys, they might have to remove it as well. And then there's going to be more complex surgeries. So that's why we emphasize people to come forward, not to be shamed about it, and ask every 50 years, at age of 50 years, 50th birthday, doctor, want to have a test done. I'm telling you, I've seen so many people that came to see me for unrelated problems. And I was so surprised to see, even I was not thinking on that. So that's why we started this campaign, to especially in this area. I'll tell you, 1 in 12 Asians men have got a lifelong risk of cancer. 1 in 12 Asian.
Wow, so that's a lot. That's a lot of Asians.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
1 in 10 white British people, white skin people, and 1 in 4 black ethnicity people, they have got the prostate cancer.
Wow, 1 in 4 in the African sort of black community. They are higher risk. They're very high, extremely high risk.
Extremely high risk. Extremely high risk.
Wow. And so I would say from that group of, so you mentioned 1 in 4 for black people, 1 in 10 for white ethnic people, and then 1 in 12. So generally Asians have it less likely, I guess, statistically, but still it's a very high statistic for all these groups.
Yes, the problem is it's very hard to catch Asians to convince them to get the blood test done. And as a way, it is a multifaceted problem, because the self-care awareness, one problem, and being male, we put the things under the carpet. We try not to talk about this because we feel shame. We think it's going to be no problem. No, I don't think it's going to be me. It's not me. The third problem is health literacy. And is minimal in this area in our people, and we don't believe in these sort of things. Now more and more people are aware of this, because a lot of campaign going on prostate cancer to catch it early, and but still people, unfortunately, those who have got the prostate cancer in the elders, they are more at risk. And there's
Interesting.
also risk of, I'll tell you interesting things, there's also risk of breast cancer in women, and the same male, in the same family, men are at risk of developing prostate cancer.
Wow. So you're higher risk if someone in your family has had breast cancer, even if they're not male, right?
Or if
What
someone
about
has got
bowel
prostate
cancer?
cancer, and if
Yeah.
or other way around as well, if someone has got prostate cancer, the
Gee.
woman at a risk of developing breast cancer, there's a lot of research going on, genetic testing, a lot of things, and but there is a link there.
That's interesting. I guess if would there be a link if so for example, and you know this, but my mother had bowel cancer for a number of years before she passed in 2019. Would I be more likely to be at risk of, or my brothers or my sister be at more likely of risk of a kind of cancer? We know 1 in 2 of us are anyway at risk, statistically, right, of getting cancer, but there's more likelihood of, if you've had familial cancer in your family, there's more likelihood that the children or siblings could get cancer, and we should get ourselves checked.
Yeah, there's always likelihood of that, but her own siblings are also at risk.
Hmm.
But
That
you
makes
can't say, I can't say no, you're not at risk, but you have got risk because there is something in the family going on, and we always keep in mind.
That's absolutely right. And you know what we did actually, because we had a very good, for my mum's situation, which is not obviously prostate cancer, but in my mum's situation, her own colorectal surgeon recommended all the children get tested and get screened. And we did that. We all went and got screened. And believe it or not, in some of my family members, they found polyps, which, as in case people don't know,
Yeah.
are like small, they're like I don't know how would you describe a polyp, Dr. Saab?
Polyp is inside the bowels, the lining, some part of the lining become folded and become little projectile mass, which most of the time is benign, doesn't cause problem, but some polyps are cancerous.
Exactly, and they found that in some of my family members, and they were very thankful because the surgeon at the time of the colonoscopy, when they do the test, they remove the polyps from these family members, and you know those, they say, can turn into cancer at older age if they are not treated. So it's a really good bit of advice that if you have family members who have had cancer, especially the correlation that you mentioned, Dr. Saab, which is breast or prostate, then you should definitely get checked out, whether you're male or female, because there's a connection.
I think it's very nice of you sharing your story with the audience live. And many people, they have got no courage. But I advise, when I go to mosques, or gurdwaras or events, so I'm going after this. I'm going to another event to talk about cancers in a large community in Bury Park. I find people, when you give people a little bit of reassurance and confidence and encourage them, many people from the audience, they come up and they share their stories, other people to learn from it. And even we doctor, as a doctor, we learn from patient stories, because patients are the best educators. Patients educate us.
100%. If you ever need me, by the way, Dr. Saab, you know where I am, so you have my number. So just give me a shout if you ever need me at any of your events to give a 5-minute story about the situation that my mum went through. We've only got a couple of minutes, inshallah, but let me ask you last question, which is about support groups, and if people are concerned about what they've heard tonight on tonight's program, what should they do? How can they get support and more information about prostate cancer?
Okay, the best thing is, if they have symptoms, they go to the doctors and speak to doctors and ask them to screen them for blood test. Basic thing, okay, one thing. But if they have someone already running with the problems in the families, so best way to get authentic information and support group is go to Prostate Cancer UK website, www.prostatecanceruk.uk.org. They have got all the latest statistics, figures, information, support, and treatment packages, and explaining, and also common prostate problems and well-being hub. Everything is there. Okay, that I would recommend it, and that is authentic Government UK's website. That is very, very helpful, whether you're professional, whether you're a family member. And there are a lot of all these things which are discussed are they referenced and they're properly vetted. And so therefore I'll tell people I signpost most of the people to go to that website.
Very, very clear, Dr. Saab. And, one of my lessons from you just today in the short conversation has been that people have to be proactive, right? You have to be proactive. You have to go and have a look and figure out what's going on. And if you have these symptoms, go straight to your GP and talk about it. If not, you can find out more on the website that you mentioned. Dr. Saab, it's been a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for joining us once again. And it's always an honor to have you on this program and to see you.
Same here. Lovely to see you. And thank you very much for inspiring Brother Tariq to giving me to bringing me here and to talking to you. Always looking forward to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah, Dr. Saab. Take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum. Take care. All right, listeners, this is Friday Night Live with me, Abdul Akbar, and that was Dr. Tahir Mahmood. I would argue one of the best GPs, honestly, I've ever met in my life, and I've seen a good few number of GPs. He won't appreciate me for saying that because he's a very humble man, but he really is a model GP for, I would not say, not just for the Luton community, not just for the UK community, but for the world, and I've seen GPs all around the world, mashallah. This is Friday Night Live. We're going to be right back after these messages. Coming up is Donald Trump and the Middle East crisis. Don't go away.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
Tune in to Inspire FM on 105.1 FM and globally at www.inspirefm.org.
Attention all electricians, builders and DIY enthusiasts. Capital Electrical Wholesalers are now open in Luton. It's a fully stocked branch with experienced staff on hand to help with all your electrical needs. With branches also in Greenford, Tottenham, Richmond and Ashton. Capital Electrical Wholesalers only stock the biggest names including JCC, Saxby, Knightsbridge, Hamilton, MK, Wilex, Hager, ACO Smoke Alarms and many more. That's Capital Electrical at Unit M, Kingsway Industrial Estate. Call 01582 801122.
वेस्टबोर्न फार्मेसी हफ्ते के 7 दिन सुबह 9 बजे से लेकर रात 9 बजे तक खुली रहती है। हमारी सर्विसेज में शामिल हैं ट्रैवल वैक्सीनेशंस, स्टॉप स्मोकिंग, डायबिटीज चेक, बच्चों की ग़िज़ा और बहुत कुछ। लुटन और टर्नस्टेबल में फ्री प्रिस्क्रिप्शन, पिकअप और डिलीवरी सर्विसेज भी की जाती है। इसके अलावा आप मेडिसिन के इस्तेमाल के लिए फ्री मशवरा भी ले सकते हैं। वेस्टबोर्न फार्मेसी 198 B Dunstable Road, Luton, corner of Westbourne Road. Telephone 01582 419 432.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shaheen. Please keep tuned to Inspire FM 105.1 FM.
Are you ready to embark on a journey of purpose and impact? The East of England Ambulance Service is recruiting now. Are you seeking training in a new career or looking for a challenge in development? Start your career for life with East. Apply now for roles in frontline emergency operations, control rooms, support services and non-emergency transport. Visit www.eastamb.nhs.uk and click Join the Team. Make a real difference. Join the East of England Ambulance Service and start your career for life.
Universal Clutches on Cosgrove Way in Luton offer more than just clutch repairs. We also now cover MOTs, servicing, brakes, suspension and vehicle recoveries. We've got you covered whether you drive a manual or semi-automatic car, van or truck. We aim to provide a quick and reliable service, and Universal Clutches are an AA and RAC approved garage. For a reliable service you can trust, call 01582 876 300 or find Universal Clutches on Google, Instagram and Facebook.
Assalamu alaikum. Since 1994, Families Relief has been providing aid to the neediest. Donate your zakat, sadaqah or lillah to help the people struggling in Gaza, Lebanon, Sudan and Yemen with food, water and medical aid. Your support makes a huge difference. Donate now. Call Families Relief at 0114 365 4454 or visit familiesrelief.org.uk. Families Relief, serving the needy.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is I am Khalid. You are tuned into the Rise and Shine show with Tariq. Keep it locked.
Does your car sound like this on the school run? Want to change that? Then tune into the Rise and Shine show with Brother T. Sing along to awesome nasheeds, answer our puzzling riddles, and tell us what you think of our newest events. The Rise and Shine show, every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 6:30.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to part 2 of tonight's 1-hour edition of Friday Night Live with me, Abdul Akbar. And we're beaming out to the good people of Luton and surrounding areas tonight, and also to the good people of Sheffield, Nottingham, Derby, Peterborough, and the Midlands through our partner stations across the nation. Of course, if you're tuning in via Unity FM and Link FM, welcome to all of you on this wonderful Friday, the 15th of November. It is getting a bit chilly out there. I don't know about you, but I was reprogramming my thermostat so I don't get a massive gas bill at the end of the month. So you might want to check that out as well, because I found my gas boiler was running more than it usually should. And we know how expensive energy is these days. And of course, that's the least of the world's problems, my energy, because imagine if you're an elderly person that's struggling to pay your winter fuel. Well, the Labour government, as we know, has removed that possibility for many elderly people to benefit from, and it is deeply disturbing. But we're not talking about the failures so far of the current Labour administration. We're talking about a different administration for the next 25 minutes or so, and that is the new incumbent Donald Trump administration, or Donald Trump Part 2 is what I'm calling it, because it is going to be an interesting 4 years ahead when Donald Trump is inaugurated into office. And that's quite interesting, because many people will wonder, well, is he president right now, Donald Trump? And no, he's not. He's actually what's known as president-elect, which means he is somebody who has won the elections. Of course, the Democratic contender Kamala Harris, who I think was absolutely rubbish as a candidate. They should have done better. And I think Nancy Pelosi, who is one of the leaders of the Democratic Party in the US, she made a fantastic point, which is that, the outcome of the election that wasn't favorable for the Democrats, comparable to the Labour Party here, was because Joe Biden did not concede that he wasn't going to win early enough, which didn't leave enough time for them to choose a worthy opponent against Donald Trump. And they chose this rubbish individual, Kamala Harris, to stand against him. And the rest is history, the history that we saw unfold late last week. And it is a disturbing sign, because now we do have somebody who is an open Islamophobe in power once again. He is anti-Palestine. He is against the Palestinian cause. His recent nomination for, what's the equivalent of defense secretary and also foreign secretary, the person that's going to be the envoy and the ambassador to Israel, these are all pro-Zionist people. And that's deeply disturbing, especially if you're Palestinian or have a connection to that cause, whether you are Muslim or not. Well, in fact, we're going to talk about this issue right now, because I am very lucky to be joined by two guests in a moment. And one of those guests is about to join. And I'm delighted I'm going to go straight to my first guest, though, which is Syed Mohsin Abbas. I'm going to bring him on the stage. And he's a seasoned journalist and political analyst with decades of experience dissecting global political trends, and he's on the line right now. There he is. Assalamu alaikum, Syed Saab. How are you? Good to see you again.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for joining us. I love your insights, Saab, because you give it how it is, and you have lots of analysis as well, which I know our viewers, our listeners, and certainly myself and Zafar Saab, when he's here, actually is able to help us. And by the way, if anyone's wondering where Zafar Saab is, he's actually, mashallah, in the Holy Land, making dua for all of us, I'm sure, as he goes around the Kaaba 7 times and then some. So mashallah. Anyway, let me ask you, Said Saab, first of all, your reactions to the Trump election victory last week. Were you expecting it to be in the manner it was, in that it was a complete victory for Trump, you know, hands down victory? All the 7 swing states that really called the election result all went to the Republican Party and Trump. Your reactions, first of all.
I was unsurprised. To be honest, I've got to say that US elections, or any elections in the democratic West where there's a 2-party system, are at best something to be taken with a pinch of salt now, because if one hasn't really realized yet that actually these are not democracies, these are oligarchies, then one needs to do one's homework a little bit more, because America is an oligarchy. It's not a democracy. The entire system is rigged in a way where, you know, these 2 candidates can stand, but nobody else stands a chance. Even Jill Stein, I think her name was, of the Greens, actually stood no chance, the way that the mechanism is set up. So first of all, you haven't got a variety and a variation in options for the American people. Second of all, the political illiteracy in America is astounding, just as it is across most of the West. You don't talk religion or politics over dinner for a reason around here, because people haven't really been educated politically or economically, for that matter. So there is a fundamental problem with the entire political system. First of all, its mechanism is geared towards favoring the transnational corporations, the big money mafias in the background ultimately get a say, and we go through this kind of the motions of a sort of a fake election democratic thing, just to pacify the people, to make them think that
you seem to be suggesting it's all an illusion, and really we're taking part in a system or a process that really results in very similar policies, regardless who's actually in power. And I completely agree with you. I mean, I don't feel like, even in the UK, just forgetting about the US elections for a moment, and of course we're talking about the US elections because there are repercussions to what's going to happen next. Because what you described to me is, you know, it feels like you're going to a restaurant, and in a good restaurant, you get a menu of choices, right? You get around 5 or 10 choices, good choices that you can choose from, and you're spoiled for choice. Sounds like in today's Western democracies that we're seeing, and I put democracy in quote, is it really a democracy where you're given a menu of just terrible choices, and maybe the choices are limited just to 1 or 2, and both are terrible, both are evil, and you're literally trying to figure out who's the lesser of the 2 evils, if I can go so far as to call them evil. And when I mention the E word, it really is evil, and I use this intentionally, that the American government continues to sell weapons to Israel, that even Human Rights Watch, as I'm sure many of our listeners and yourself have seen, are complaining about. I mean, Sky News, I've got to say, did a wonderful piece yesterday on a doctor. You probably saw this, Said Saab, that was effectively just disappeared within the Israeli penal system, and you know, ambassadors, the IDF, and everyone saying, we don't know this guy, we don't know where he went, it wasn't our responsibility. But there's clear documented evidence that this man was tortured and killed, and he was a significant ambassador for the medical community, not just in Palestine and for the Palestinian people, but we even had people, you know, doctors, distinguished doctors in the UK saying this man was a collaborator. And they did some wonderful pieces on Gaza yesterday. Sky News did, so kudos to Sky. But nonetheless, they are evil, the American administration, because they're still selling weapons to an organization that is systemically, ethnically cleansing Palestine. And my worry, in going back to the US elections, my rant is over, but my question to you is, going back to the US elections and now the decisions that Trump is making and he is going to make about who goes into Israel and tries to bring quote unquote peace. What do you think that peace will look like? And will he let Benjamin Netanyahu, whose bet, by the way, whose gamble to ignore the Biden administration for the last 12 months has paid off? Because they've literally been waiting for the outcome of the US election. That outcome has been highly favorable if you're an Israeli right-wing nutcase. And now it looks like that bet has paid off, and things look even more favorable by way of if you're in the Israeli right-wing government. What's your take?
Well, the fact of the matter is Israel is losing the war, whatever it started, because it's failed to dismantle Hamas, which was a stated objective. It's failed to destroy those tunnels, which was a stated objective. It's failed to rescue its hostages. Those are the three clauses which the Israelis began with. That's why they were launching this so-called attack on Gaza, the genocide, in fact. So they failed fundamentally. The other front, Lebanon, the Lebanese people continue to support practically the Palestinian resistance through missiles and firing. That, if you look at it, for the first time, Tel Aviv has been, and other areas of Israel are being saturated with around 150 to 200 missiles per day. This is unprecedented, So what you're seeing is Israel demonstrating that it cannot even, do its own security. It demonstrated that with the Islamic Republic of Iran's launch of the True Promise 1 and 2, in which hundreds of missiles penetrated. And Yemen has done it too. So what we're seeing is on all sides, Israel's failure to be able to maintain its own citizens' security. The collapse of its economy is rapidly accelerating, with 140,000 businesses already shut down and many more anticipated to shut down. Unemployment is rife. All the reservists, etc., are out, and there's PTSD and all sorts of other psychological issues which are now being unfolded within the Israeli army. The Israeli army hasn't been able to advance into Lebanon in any substantial manner. They're still stuck on the borders against Hezbollah and the Ridwan force. They've taken a hit with over 1,000 Israeli soldiers killed within a month, a huge number, and over 4,000 are literally decapitated or injured in one shape or form. They're basically wounded are at astronomical levels. So this is all being covered up quite often, basically, by the Israeli hasbara and propaganda. But this is the reality that Donald Trump will see when he comes in. He will see that Israel has fundamentally failed. Now, he's going to, being a business type, he's going to, and being the type of person who also loves success, he's going to ask, I guess, well, where's the results? And if in 2 months, Israel isn't able to turn this around, isn't as able to show the kind of results which might impress Trump, there's every chance that he'd pull the plug and basically go for peace, not because he wants it, not because America wants it or that Israel wants it, but because they've got no choice. Because
that's interesting. That's interesting. So your hypothesis, Saab, on Trump's angle will be he'll probably have a private conversation to whom he calls Bibi, right? Netanyahu, who many of us call murderer and tyrant, right? They call him Bibi in his allies. But nonetheless, you reckon Trump will try to resolve this and want to see, like you say, he's a businessman. He has targets, he has KPIs, he wants to see results. And if he is someone saying there will be peace, the question is at what cost? Because as you know, as I know, as many who are informed on this issue know, Trump is surrounded by a lot of Israelis in the US. I mean, some would argue that any American administration is actually run by a very heavy Israeli influence, and therefore it's not just on the outskirts. It's penetrated the heart of the American administration, which is why we see so many pro-Israeli positions being taken, and why we haven't seen weapons being provided to these people who continue to kill innocent Palestinians. It's interesting your take as well on the fact that you reckon Israel is losing. And those three indicators you give, if you measure it by that standard, absolutely, they're not winning, because none of those things have been checked off, and they haven't been able to get the hostages back, and they haven't eradicated Hamas because there's still rockets. In fact, now they've got Hezbollah into the mix as well. And it seems to be just getting worse and worse for Israel as it gets more embroiled into this conflict. I hope, and one thing I do like about Donald Trump, and there isn't much to like about him, but one thing he did say, and I hope he's honest and true to his word, and he does have a record of being true to his word as a businessman. Whether you like what he does or not, he does have a record of doing what he said he'll do. And one thing he did say is he's not going to start any wars, and he does want to bring peace in all these conflicts, whether it's Ukraine and Russia or whether it's the Palestinian situation. So hopefully he does resolve this. I think our other guest, Raed Jarrar, is on the line as well. So I'm going to try and speak to him, Syed Saab. So stay there as well with us. Raed, are you there? Let me just say salam to you, Raed. Saab, are you there?
Yes, assalamu alaikum. Sorry about I'm having a bad internet connection, so I hope you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. No worries. Thank you for joining us, and we appreciate the time you've made. Syed Saab and I have just been talking about his reactions to the Trump win, but I'd love to get your take as well, because listeners, you may have known Raed Jarrar. He's been on this program before. He's an Arab American political advocate and commentator who brings a unique perspective on Middle Eastern and US relations, and he's perfect for the topic that Syed Saab and I are just talking about. Raed, let me ask you this, first of all. How do you see the recent US election results impacting Middle Eastern policies in the coming years, especially the relations between Saudi Arabia? Oh, we just lost him. He is having connection problems. That was going to be a good question, but let me put that to you, if I may, which is, how do you see the posturing changing, if at all? We've said that it doesn't matter who's in power. Normally, it's the same handshake, whether it's a Democrat or Republican. But there does seem to be this special connection between Trump and global dictators. Can I put it like that? Like Putin and like Kim Jong-un in North Korea, and also potentially like MBS as well, Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia. Do you think MBS is going to be on the phone, if not already, saying, listen, you need to sort out this Gaza situation? Because I was quite surprised with the statement that MBS made, I think it was roughly a week ago, saying that Israel has committed genocide. And Saudi Arabia, this is directly coming from MBS, saying Israel has committed genocide. And that's a phrase that Saudi Arabia has not used before, and this is coming right from the top.
It's interesting you raise the Middle Eastern nation. That's a very important point. You see, KSA, Egypt, Jordan, the UAE, all of them are basically puppets of the Zio-American establishment. They have been since their formation. They were formed by the British Empire and handed over to America and American imperialism, and they continued a kind of neo-colonialism, and these guys are basically the puppets that operate for American and Zio-Western interests, I'd say. The oil in Iraq all goes to, even today, all goes to the Americans. Syrian oil, 80% of it has been nobbled by the Americans. They control the oil fields. Kuwait and all these other chaps have their particular deals, which make sure that America gets a big slice of the oil action. Donald Trump called it milking the cow, didn't he? He was on record coming back, basically sarcastically calling the Arabs cows, and that he wanted a milk of oil because they were relying on its defense. Now, the interesting thing is, does Saudi Arabia feel secure? Has it received the kind of security from America that it needs to feel it can survive? Answer is no, because they literally couldn't go and win the war in Yemen, the poorest Arab nation in the area. They decimated and genocided hundreds of thousands of Yemenis. They destroyed all sorts of infrastructure, creating disease, cholera, killing people on biblical levels. 500,000 or so people dead because of that war. And that was a war which was a Zio-Western war again, because they wanted to control the Bab al-Mandeb. They wanted to control that trade route, which today the Ansarullah have shut down, because they bombed just yesterday one of the American warships, and it's had to retreat. No Israeli ship goes through there, and Eilat port is shut down so that Israel is not able to utilize it. It's now bankrupt. They can't use it at all. So what you see is these Arab nations have just been hedging their bets. I think partly what's going on is that they have an option now emerging. The Eurasian axis with China and Russia rising and expanding BRICS and this new force that's rising is in the eye of the Saudis, etc. They're not allowed to go fully with it, but they're certainly flirting with the idea. And what Trump has to look at is, at the moment, they make money from West Asia. Now, by continuing with the war in Israel, does that mean that their erstwhile allies or their current allies will lose confidence and jump ship and go off to join the party with the Eurasian axis? Well, possibly. That's certainly a big push.
But unlikely. And I think one problem that these Gulf countries have, these Gulf nations have, is that there are American bases on them, installed on them. And that's a tricky one to navigate. Let me try and bring Raed Jarrar back as well. Raed, hopefully you can hear me, but let me ask you this question, which is, the Trump win. Some of the states were very heavily, we saw lots of reports where Arab Americans and this community played a big place in swinging the election results towards the Trump victory. I'd love to know your take on that and what resulted in them voting for Trump versus the natural choice or more natural choice, which would have been the Democrats.
Listen, I hope you can hear me better now, and I apologize.
Yeah, go for it.
It's definitely a political earthquake in the United States, and it's not about the Trump victory. It's about the Democrats' defeat. And I want to say, like you mentioned something now about the natural vote for the Arab and Muslim populations in the U.S. This is just like a quick reminder that before 9/11, the majority of Muslim and Arab Americans voted for Republicans because that was the party of faith. It was the party where, more religious folks, whether they're Christian or Muslim or Jewish, were more affiliated with the Republican before 9/11. After 9/11 and the policies that followed from the Bush administration, there was a massive migration, an immediate 20% drop in the Arab and Muslim communities of support for the Republican Party and the migration to the Democratic Party. That happened 20 years ago. We are seeing a similar migration out of the Democratic Party now, a 20% drop of support for Democrats in the overall Arab American Muslim communities, according to polls. As you indicated, the swing states have shown unprecedented numbers of Arab and Muslim Americans not voting for the Democrats. So that doesn't mean that they all voted for Trump. A small sliver of them voted for Trump. The majority either did not vote at all, they boycotted the election, or they voted for third parties, the Green Party, other parties, as a protest vote to voting for the Democrats. So we are witnessing a historic, maybe multi-generational shift outside of the Democratic Party. This will have lasting effect maybe for 10, 20 more years. The fact that the Democrats have been blindly supporting the genocide will have massive effects that will go way beyond the elections that we just witnessed.
Makes sense. And thanks for reminding us of the fact that many Muslim communities pre 9/11 actually were more on the Republican side than they were on the Democratic side. That's really interesting reminder of recent history. Let me ask you this question as well, Raed Saab, is specifically about where you see relations with Israel and the Palestinians going next, especially after the recent appointments by Trump. I mean, we saw who he's appointed for as the ambassador or the kind of representative of the American government to Israel, somebody who is very pro-Zionist, pro-Israel. Do you think this is more of a show, but actually there's going to be real discussions to stop the war behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like US public have been given two options with this election, which is Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go for it.
Yeah.
You keep muting slightly, but we can still hear you.
Yeah, the U.S. public were given two genocidal options in the elections, and we were told again to pick between the lesser of two evils. I mean, honestly, I can't really tell you which one is the lesser of two evils. It's for real. Like I actually don't know which one is lesser. Now, President Trump and his administration, the upcoming administration, seem to be less predictable. It's a wild card. He says things on Lebanon that seem to be okay. He says things on Israel Palestine that seem insane. It's a wild card. Overall, he's promising that he's going to continue on his track record of not supporting wars. But also we know that he has a very bad track record in supporting Israeli war crimes, crimes against humanity, annexation, blind check policies for Israel. He has said things that are very awful. At the end of the day, this is what we're looking for, Abdul. We're looking for an era where the United States continues to be a partner in crimes. The United States continues to lose its leadership and moral status and legal leadership around the world. And rather than looking for the U.S. to step in to save the day, we have to be looking for the international community to stop both Israel and the United States from committing crimes in Palestine and the rest of the region.
I hear you. Well, listen, we run out of time, but let me go ahead and thank both of you on joining this program, Raed, Jarrar, and also Syed, Mohsin, Abbas. We really appreciate both of your perspectives on the ground, and look forward to having you maybe in a few weeks' time, couple of months' time, to get your reactions on how things are going with the new administration in the new year. Appreciate your time, gents. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care. Assalamu alaikum. All right, listeners, this is Friday Night Live, or this has been. We're going to be back next week for more political analysis on the news affecting the community. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.